Welcome to the People's Colloquy, a podcast that aims to pierce through the fog around us with the high beam of good conversation. My name is Anthony, aka Scare, aka Zorro, aka Ngalagata, looking up on PSN. We are here with Thabo, aka Frank.
Dumelang. Thabo, Bravo, Makanye, aka Frank, we back.
And joining us today to talk decolonizing the curriculum is Dr. Tshepo Mvulani Moloi. Please introduce yourself, my brother.
Greetings to everybody. I am Dr. Tshepo Mvulane Moloi. I am a social scientist who's an expert in Africa's international relations, political science, and philosophy, specifically African philosophy.
So we're talking decolonizing the curriculum, and the history of that struggle has been one of try, fail again, fail better. What are the barriers that are keeping us from achieving the kind of curriculum that will benefit Africans?
Sure, that's a very pregnant question, and I think that perhaps it's easier if we can talk about my background before we talk about this, because it will talk to aspects of what you are raising in your question.
I'm happy with that, brother.
Yeah, so I don't know where you'd like us to begin, so that I don't waffle.
From my side, all I want to know is that who are you? Because I'm trying to understand the man.
Okay. So first and foremost, Tshepo is born in Tanzania because his parents left the country in 1976 because of the struggle, blah blah blah. Right? We know our history, which is a problematic history now that I think about it, because the 1976 story is really a lie.
In what way?
So I hold here a book called June 1976, commemorating dialogue.
Mm.
Yeah.
This book is available at where it all started. Just so that I check, according to you guys, where did the 1976 start?
It was
According to your mainstream history.
the struggle to fight against Afrikaans as the medium of instruction.
Where did it start? I want the location.
In Sharpeville.
Okay, he says Tshepho.
I'm supposed to be asking questions.
No. There's a reason I said this.
Dia is trying to expose me. Listen, wow, 1976, the whole thing had started.
I mean,
the
they say
whole.
it every year.
Yeah, sure, I understand, but it's okay, mainstream, right? Like you had said. So it's alright, ain't it?
Where in Soweto?
What's that school? What with Morrison?
Aha.
Yeah, that's yeah.
So this is it, right? This is why this question is very, very important, because the fundamental problem with this question of decolonization in the context of where we are. By the way, we're having this interview in Naledi in Soweto. So what I have done is to put an effort to actually finding out demystification of the mainstream rhetoric about 1976, and it is actually embarrassing to learn that it all started 8 days before 16th June 1976.
Okay.
8 days before, meaning it started on the 8th of June, not on the 16th.
Of June, yeah.
Where does it start? It starts at Naledi High, which is down the road from us. Now, he just said, according to his memory, every year.
Not according to my memory, that's what I was told.
yes.
I'm rebutting.
Right? So, and he's not wrong. This is exactly what the majority of those who can talk about 1976 will talk about Morris Isaacson.
Yeah.
Where it started there, then it went down, and that is like, it's at best, if we want to respect our elders, we'll call it a half-truth. This is if we want to respect. But if we are blatant, that's a total lie, distortion.
What's the truth, brother?
The truth is, it starts, geographically speaking, in Soweto. Naledi High is in what is called Deep Soweto. We, being in Naledi, we are in Deep Soweto.
Yeah.
Naledi High is about 600 meters from where we are sitting.
Yeah.
Now, geographically, if you are to think about where Morris Isaacson is, it's in Orlando. We are in Naledi. Orlando, you are almost on your exit out of Soweto. Now, Morris Isaacson is in Jabavu. Earlier on, I spoke about Noni Jabavu.
Yes.
And I said, it is her granddad that section is named after.
Yeah.
Now, if you follow the mainstream rhetoric, you will be fed nothing but lies. In this book, which by the way, you can access this book at Naledi High. I think it was 2018, Jacob Zuma came to the school to give a presidential walk of where it all started. And he was flanked by the premier at the time, Paul Mashatile, and one of the former school pupils that went to the school is the previous premier of Popo Molefe. What was he premier of? Northwest.
Yeah.
He went to that school, and in '76 he was part of that matric class. Now, it is shocking that, so I'm just opening up the picture when he does the visit, right? So it's all there, right? And I mean, if I'm just to read here, the presidential visit in 2012 acknowledged the school as one of the heritage schools that contributed to the struggle for liberation. That's because it started there.
That's where it began.
So so I'm not talking theory and I'm not talking assumptions. It's all there.
Yeah.
Now, here is what made me sick in the stomach. It doesn't start with the names you guys know are Tshetsi Mashinini.
Yeah.
You guys know about Hector Peterson. This makes me sick because the name before all names should be a guy who was matric in Naledi High in this year, who was called Enos Nguchana.
Why is it significant?
Now, this name is very important because this is the student where the entire 1976 story begins with this student.
If I may.
And I will show you in this book, I'll show you his picture. When you go to Naledi High today, on the wall, they've drawn him. They've drawn a picture of him. This is him. I want to get a better photo of him. This is him and students, right?
Yeah.
Enos Nguchana. Don't forget this name. And I'm saying this to the viewers as well, not to forget this name, right? The long and short of what I'm saying here, because we need to go back to the question of decolonization. And part of why I'm answering you in this way is because decolonization involves two steps. It involves an understanding of our real history, number one. Number two, it involves the complexity of engaging material or phenomena that basically is to do with us. Now, it matters who is giving you this material or who is engaging you about this material.
Yeah, sure.
So, which is why this is just a typical example I'm making. I don't want to get deep into the 76 story.
Yes.
But what South Africa needs to take heed of is stop your rubbish of June 16. It's June 8. And it's stop your rubbish of Tshetsi Mashinini, Hector Peterson et al.
Yeah.
Speak Enos Nguchana. It is so embarrassing that this guy is still alive.
Wow.
Not only is he still alive, he just retired now from PRASA. And you guys have never heard of him. The president, the entire president of the country, has been part of this rhetoric. Okay,
but
so
then,
let's not
can
get,
we
so
then
let's not
say
get lost in that.
Just
right?
one quick thing. What is being that Naledi is a critical, commemorated as a liberation
heritage
school,
because
right?
that's where it started.
What is the state of the school today?
We were having a conversation earlier
We're not
amongst
gonna
each
go
other, right? And we were just talking generally about private school, public schools.
Yeah.
Naledi High should not be what it is today. It's there's nothing special about Naledi High in the greater scheme of things. It's treated as just one of the schools in the township, like any typical township school. You would like to think that if they've made it a heritage site, a heritage school, that perhaps there would be a museum, perhaps there would be students would be coming to do research there.
Yeah, sure.
Everybody stops at Vilagazi Street where the Hector Peterson Museum is, and they don't come all the way to Deep Soweto.
But then
they all stop there, right?
This half truth, I say, it's like it's part of colonial or whatever kind of education that we're getting, because the people that are telling it, they're being educated through that system.
Right, but I don't blame the people doing that because it's not to their interest.
Yeah.
You see.
What is it? Why are they doing it? Because I want to say this, right? I didn't know what you were saying now, right?
Right.
But I am sure you're not the only person who knows this.
Right.
And I am sure those people that are putting it
the
out there.
The president could come.
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. If they put it out there, some of those people that are writing June 16 and the whole Orlando or whatever, Maurice Isaacson, whatever thing, they do know about this, some of them maybe. Why aren't they telling the
Actually, no. Truth? Take that back.
Or they don't.
All right. So the first problem is research. Majority of these people just move with the mainstream rhetoric because that's what they know.
So we take over,
and they've been comfortable with it because they don't think there's another version.
Yeah.
Which is why only if you are serious will you then actually do some digging, and you'll find that actually, wait a minute, there are more questions here. Even the kid that you talk about, Hector Peterson, he's not the first kid to fall. On that very street where the Hector Peterson Museum is the house of a kid called Hastings Ndlovu. And the question becomes, why are they talking about Hector Peterson
and not Hastings?
Never talk about, so, what I'm bringing to your attention...
Maybe it's that iconic photo.
Okay.
Which is what brings it.
So when it goes with the mainstream.
Okay. Yeah, which is like photo now.
Remember your question. What is decolonization? And what is the significance of decolonization?
What are the barriers?
And so, just in what I have brought to you as an example of the history of, because I gave you the 2 steps.
Yeah.
You cannot blame the journalists, the people that have run with this mainstream.
But don't they have the responsibility?
No. You see, they are not your fathers, your mothers. They are not the ones who took the bullets. They're not the ones whose history is being masked.
Fair.
It is only you can liberate, not emancipate. See, this is, so it matters. There's something called
well, to many people that would sound like the same thing. Can you explain the
difference?
Right. Liberate and emancipate.
Right. So a lot of people, whenever they use metaphors or whenever they use jargon, they take English to be basically, I mean, like you're saying, some words they're taken as synonyms, yet they're not. If you follow the history of the word liberate, that is basically used by scholar activists who are rebelling against the system. Emancipate are people who are doing what? Transformation. Decolonization is for liberation. It is not for transformation. Since 94 in South Africa, we have been busy with transformation, which is why we're still where we are. We haven't improved.
That's why I see 94. That's why I see 94 not as a freedom, but as like an inclusive.
Rainbow Nation. I mean,
it was an inclusive. It is
right.
It's inclusive.
But Biko Sobukwe, if you're talking liberation, we are still afraid to revisit those ideas for government.
So the ANC is an emancipation.
And by government, we're speaking decolonizing the curriculum. We're speaking decolonizing knowledge. Yeah. We are afraid to go to. I said to you, it is not the responsibility of those that are not the ones taking the bullets.
Yeah.
So the ones taking the bullets, which was our parents.
Yeah.
Right. If we understand ourselves as carrying on their fight. By the way, there's nothing revolutionary about the 1976 moment. If we were to think that they were actually fighting against not being taught in Afrikaans.
Yeah,
it's not revolutionary.
That was pretty much one thing.
It's not revolutionary, but in the context of apartheid,
Yeah.
it was revolutionary.
Yeah, because
So that we
Africans
can't
meant
take away from
something
it,
to
right?
them. Africans meant something to them.
But if we are to go deep into it in terms of, we still are keeping to decolonization. First of all, if you're going to say you are rebelling against Afrikaans and you are in South Africa, you are doing two things. You are, one, suffering from amnesia. Two, you are being in denial of the reality of the social construct of your country. Afrikaans is born in South Africa.
Yeah.
Afrikaans, therefore, is an South African
language.
original language,
Yeah.
right?
It's true.
Comes from the combination of those that were slaves and those that became our masters
Yeah.
when they arrived in the Cape,
Yeah.
right? That dialect, which some people will call kitchen Dutch, is what would become Afrikaans,
Afrikaans,
in 1925. So Afrikaans then becomes the youngest language in the world. And it is South African origination. So if you're going to say we're fighting Afrikaans, we need to check your positionality on, can you elaborate, because maybe there's something we don't understand, or maybe
Wasn't
you,
it
right?
because it was the language that the oppressor was using?
Right.
It was the language that the
Right,
oppressor
right,
came
right.
up with. So
So-
it represented something
in
to
the
us
context,
blacks and to the oppressor.
this is important because you need to talk directly to why the 1976 moment needs to be narrated properly.
Okay.
Enos Nguchana, why it starts with him 8 days before, is because he writes a letter to the Minister of Education.
Yeah.
And that letter is in this book. It's not a letter as you are thinking, maybe it's long.
Yeah.
It's a paragraph. He says, look, as a student who's been taught using English all along, I'm refusing that now suddenly I have to change to Afrikaans. That's all he writes to the minister. That letter, he posts it. The second day, a white policeman and a black policeman in a beagle come to the school. And they say to the principal, who's the student? They say, no, that's one of our matric students. And they call him and he comes. And they say, if you are Enos Nguchana, we're here to arrest you. Cut a long story short, 16 June 1976, while you guys are talking about the students being rubber bullet shot, the guy who started it all is in a court. Enos was in court. For 1976, he was in court.
It's really
So
important.
sometimes we create
Right?
our own heroes, right?
So no. I want you to keep to decolonization because that's the theme. Then the long and short of what I'm bringing to you in a practical example through this history,
Yeah.
which is our history,
Yeah.
is that we have not done our own research. We are not in charge of our own narratives. The colonizers and the colonial rhetoric remains the hymn sheet that we still sing from. Until we stop that, until we interrupt that in what is called epistemic rupture
Yeah.
in scholarship, we will continue to be nothing but consumers of our colonizers.
When was that rupture supposed to happen?
To be
Ideally.
what Robert Sobukwe and what Steve Biko, those moments, those lives, those intellectual voices, today we can call them our black prophets. What they were giving to us when they gave birth to the Pan-Africanist Congress in 1959, and when Steve Biko became the founding president of SASO in the 70s, what those moments represent in our black South African archive, that is the beginning of how we should have begun to reclaim our minds. But it didn't come to light. And when ANC began to have an oxygen moment, not in 94, from 1990, when Mandela is released, this is when CODESA would start to take place. And we know that CODESA 1 dissolved. They couldn't see eye to eye. Then CODESA 2 had to happen. And it is here in CODESA 2, 1990s, before 94, it is here where for the first time the black voice could actually be listened to, be heard, and actually have the influence to change the agenda. It didn't.
It didn't, yeah. It didn't.
You know why?
So they had the power to change even like the
Do you
education
know why
system
it
then.
didn't? Let's be specific.
Okay.
It didn't because of four things. The first was they agreed on we need to set up a constitution that is going to take us to elections. So that was agreed. Here's the problem with this agreement. This constitution is really influenced by the ANC constitution, which says what? South Africa shall belong to all who live in it, black and white, blah, blah, blah. Already here. Whatever Steve Biko, whatever Sobukwe was saying was thrown to the dustbin. Because from that one clause alone, these three could never be realized. The land, it was never discussed at CODESA.
Yeah.
So it still remained with the colonizer. The economy was never discussed at CODESA. So it still remained in the hands of the 13% of the white population. The land, the economy, decolonization of the curriculum, the education system. Because of this one clause, we never addressed these three. Today,
One meeting.
Today, I want you to fast forward 25 years later, post 94. What are the protests that you see happening all over the country?
It's on those three
on
issues.
Land, it's on economy,
It's on education.
people don't have jobs, it's on education.
So
Which is what? Which is expressed in FISMAS for 2015-2016.
But then can I quickly say
Do you
something?
see what
Can
I'm
I quickly
saying?
say something?
So we've lost our minds.
Dear, can I quickly say something?
Right.
With that point that you mentioned of South Africa must belong to whatever, all that live in it.
All
and
that
stuff.
live in it, black and white. That's
Black
the
and white.
constitution.
So right, this is the constitution. So you have that.
Right.
So if you discuss the party and decolonizing education, South Africa belongs to all.
Of course, the
So that
constitution.
means, if it's Amazon or it's Amazon law, that means you're gonna have two systems as education.
So
You're gonna have one for the whites and one for the blacks.
okay, so you've got to understand this, because now you're falling into the trap of colonial rhetoric, which is called coloniality.
Okay.
Here's what we should talk about when we talk of decolonizing knowledge,
Yes.
because that is the gist of your question. Decolonizing knowledge means we need epistemic rupture, as I said earlier.
Yeah.
Firstly, let me explain. Epistemic comes from the word epistemology. Epistemology is the study of information, the study of the scholarship, the source that you're
Itself.
engaging. Rupture speaks for itself, right? We need to interrogate, we need to challenge, right? So what decolonization, if you had to sum it up, decolonization is an exercise of epistemic rupture, meaning what we've been told, we need to basically take it and we need to engage it, to interrogate it, to see if we can land at the same conclusion as theirs.
to
That
see if
why
that
aren't
is even
we-
relevant
Right?
to begin with.
Why aren't we doing it?
Precisely,
What is it?
precisely because you are under Act 108 of 1996, which is the Constitution of South Africa. And that Constitution, when you open the clause, it still says South Africa belongs to all who live in it.
So we need to
And
change
everybody
that,
has a
right?
right. Black, white, colored, everyone has equal rights. And you're thinking, hey, hold up now. How do we have equal rights when we were colonized and you colonized us and you have got the better of us in these three areas
Yeah.
and you still say we are equal?
Equal rights.
We
So,
are
the,
not.
so your constitution of this country, which your black colleagues, because of CODESA 2, put into life, and this is what governs you. So even if you take them to court, you're governed by that constitution.
It's the
my
very
guy.
same thing.
But then-
So that is the problem we have.
Giving,
Which
so
is
you say
why,
giving
which is
you
why,
the
which is
opportunity.
why, which is why, who's Moloi Toby?
Yeah.
Here
The
he
land
is.
is ours, yeah.
So you know, he
Right,
brings
right,
out this
times,
book.
yeah.
He brings out this book, right? The land is ours. And you'd like to think that this guy he's black, he's young, he was a president of the SRC at Fort Hare, so you know he's down with the politics. But wait a minute, Moloi Toby, you are a black lawyer who is following the prescripts of a colonized constitution. So this makes you a moron. This makes you you have no understanding that you are actually contributing
You're
to
adding
the
on to
problem.
the legacy.
And of course, because people ba
I need-
mametse
I need
sekgowa.
Mvulani in this.
Ntwana e bua sekgowa. Monna, sharp law. Yeah, but whose law is he quoting? Because he's quoting the Constitution.
He's protecting the.
So I mean, his book is South Africa's first black lawyers.
Yeah.
I mean, right from the beginning, who are the first black lawyers of South Africa? You follow them, and he puts their pictures here.
Yeah.
You know, Pixley Seme, Alfred Mangena, all of these people. All these guys are jokes. Jokes because all of them are graduates of Western law. In South Africa, we're very particular. We speak about Roman Dutch law,
Yeah.
and we also speak about common law.
Yes.
Why? Because common law is British. Who colonized us? The British. Roman Dutch law, who were the Afrikaans people?
Dutch.
Originally they are Dutch, which is why Afrikaans is kitchen Dutch. Now, why is it that we claim to be Africans, but we are governing ourselves with foreign legal instruments of our colonizers? And our own so-called intellectual emerging black lawyers are comfortable with this.
Yeah. But Hollywood say let's ban everything.
We are actually thinking they're brilliant using this. But so keep to your decolonization, because that's what we're on about.
Because you see, my thing is,
that's what we're on about.
I want you, like, what I need from you, like I said, that I want to understand the man, and I want to understand Tshepho.
Right.
I believe in decolonization, but
Right.
maybe my understanding is how it better. Let me
Right.
just put it that way.
Right.
I'm going to put some respect with this, right? What is it that we need to do to decolonize the education system in South Africa?
So what I did was I was explaining about my life, and then I got into 1976, which led me to explain other things.
Yes,
but
sir.
let me, in a nutshell, say, when my parents left for exile in 76, this is the reason why I get born in Tanzania, in Mazimbu. And of course, this is how then I become part, by default, of what is called SOMAFCO.
Yeah.
Right, Solomon Mahlangu Freedom College.
Yeah.
And basically, this is where some of us would be referred to as the kids of the exiled kids of the ANC.
Like struggle kids or
right?
something.
And then from there, 89, when my mother comes back, she leaves me with some foster parent, which was a granny, not related to the family. She comes back in 89, she picks me up, we reconvene with my dad. My dad had gone to Germany, first Angola, he was Umkhonto weSizwe. Then, so he trained for that, and then he went to Germany to do engineering. Also, he says, because, I haven't seen any certificate, but hey, story for another day.
Like your honesty.
In Germany, so he's in Germany, then he comes back to the country, according to his version, Thabo Mbeki deploys him to the mines in Zimbabwe. And so when my mom picks me up from Tanzania, she was in Russia, studied medicine with Nkosazana Zuma, Manto Chabalala. So if you follow it, you can see that this is like the cream of the ANC.
Yes.
So, cut a long story short, mom collects me, and we reconvene with dad in Zimbabwe. He is now in the north of Zimbabwe, so he's at the mines, and we convene with him there. So I'm in Zim. So this is the first time we're together as a complete family unit. Cut a long story short, we're in Zim for about 2-3 years. Then we return when they say CODESA is going down. Mandela is released in 90. CODESA is about to happen. All exiles are then said they can come back home. This is how we come back home in 92. At this time, something very controversial is happening that the rest of the country is not aware of. There is what is called the Montflair scenarios, and it's taking place in a farm in Stellenbosch. This is where these guys begin to be the nucleus that are going to inform the outcome of CODESA. So this is a
so CODESA was pre-planned.
So this is a meeting of the former Afrikaans guys who were running government, the activists in the ANC, and the blacks who were in academia. So if you want to understand selling out, you have to talk to our history, which you are not getting taught in our schools
at all.
Precisely because not only, like I said earlier, it's not to their interest.
It's deal making.
And they're not interested in finding that out. But for you though, because you want to get to it, you need to know these details. Anyway, so this is 91, 92. Cut a long story short, I go to a school in South Africa which, unknown to me, I'm thinking I'm going there because my cousin goes there.
Yeah.
Later, I would learn. I'm in class with Obakeng Chikane. His dad is Director General, Presidency.
Mhm.
I'm in class with Moiko Sisulu. His granddad doesn't need no introduction.
No introduction needed.
The grandkids of the Mandelas, Zintle Mandela, Zolega Mandela. These are my schoolmates.
Your peers.
Now you're thinking, okay, okay. It can't be coincidence that we're
That
all
the
in
same
this
group all
school.
together.
Yeah,
And
sure,
at
it
this
can be.
time, we're all kids of former ANC leaders, ANC activists, ANC, basically the who's who of the ANC.
Yeah, sure.
At this time, and here's the funny thing, I see the bodyguards coming to drop these guys, but we're kids, so we don't talk about these things. And of course, when Mandela's been inaugurated, they're the Mandela grandkids. We see them in FNB Stadium. We see them, but we don't talk about this when we get to school because you know we study here. We just know each other as kids, right?
Pokemon at that time, I'm sure.
But precisely because I said decolonization involves the act of actually epistemic rupture.
Yeah.
The history that you think is your history, when you actually put it to the test, you actually learn that this is not what meets the eye. So I did a very simple exercise with Sacred Heart College, and I just did my digging on my school, and I find 1978. 1978, 79, there was a group of Afrikaans intellectuals and ANC. Thabo Mbeki is part of that. And the book that talks to this with information is, and I mean, look at the title, The Other Side of History, right? And you can see the picture. Please tell us who you see. Please tell us who you see in the picture.
Reflection on political transition in South Africa.
Thank you. Tell me who's in the picture. Just tell the people that are listening.
I can see Tshepo's.
Right.
I can see some white guy.
So,
and the other guy I don't know. Who
right.
Is, but I can see Tshepo.
This is a meeting.
I can see
This is
somewhere,
Van Zyl Slabbert, who writes this book. He's an Afrikaans activist at the time who was unpopular with his Afrikaans people because he was regarded as a liberal. They are part of the intellectuals. Right? Who basically, and the other guy is Breitenbach.
Yeah.
He was regarded as an Afrikaans activist, poet, scholar. They actually imprisoned him. Afrikaans as he is. And when I went to study at Stellenbosch, I would meet his brother, who was professor of political science. Now, if you're listening to my life, because as I talk to who is the man,
there's a lot of
and you can hear how I'm narrating my story and how I'm linking it to the events of my country.
Yeah.
You begin to get an appreciation of we do not know who we are, but I took the trouble to go back in time and actually the things that I thought I knew, I'm actually relearning. So
going back to
that was actually this. Damn, that was, you see what I'm saying?
So that's what informs the man
right?
to...
With all of that in mind,
right.
your history,
right.
the people you've been around, and the situations, how did it come to be that you decided that decolonizing education would become the thing that you really want to push forward?
Okay, so...
Writing your doctoral thesis.
So I think we skip a huge chunk before we talk about that, because understanding from so by a long shot, one would say I was privileged having gone to a school like Sacred Heart College, and privileged given the fact that I also came from other countries while still a very young child, right?
Yeah, sure.
And the network that I have from the type of school that I come from and the institutions that I've been to.
Yeah.
So basically from school, then I went from Rao, then I went to University of Zululand, and then from University of Zululand I went to Stellenbosch, and then from Stellenbosch that's when I came back to University of now Johannesburg. And cut a long story short, I never knew. You've just said to me, when did you decide that you're going to do something on decolonization? I never decided. It's something that, as in my trajectory and in my journey, I kept on arriving at these moments where there were not enough answers.
It's a spirit.
I mean a degree in a university that's black, Zululand, and they are teaching me my history from Jan van Riebeeck, 1652. And I ask
Your
a
life
simple
doesn't
question.
start there, yeah.
Are you saying before 1652
We didn't exist.
there is no history? Right? So why does our history begin when a white man comes to our shores? Right?
There's nothing written
So-
therefore.
So that's when I stopped that degree with immediate effect. When you change degrees at University of Zululand, they call it modification. So I modified to straight Department of History. So that's how my first qualification in degree at degree level becomes BA in Heritage Studies. That is what informed it,
Okay.
right? And
And then like, okay, cool. Decolonizing education. For now, right, I think like there's pillars, and that I think that they're very important. There's a role, very, very important that they need to play. Academia, one, in no particular order, right? Academia, politics, which is the government, and actually, let's just there. Why isn't academia doing enough or doing anything for decolonize education? Why isn't government doing anything for the current education system?
so I think your question is problematic. At least from 2015 onwards. Problematic in this sense. I spoke about transformation.
Yeah.
Since '94, what black government in South Africa under the ANC have been doing is engaging in exercises called transformation.
Yeah.
And what is their transformation? It's not content.
Yeah.
What is it? It's administration.
Yeah.
Right? It's basically increasing more black people
Yeah.
to be
Employment
at
equity
staff.
is one of those.
That's
Yeah,
transformation.
employment equity.
That's
is
not
strictly-
decolonization.
Yeah,
So-
employment
so-
equity is strictly transformation.
So ANC
It's
has
not
been involved in a
decolonization.
project of emancipation,
Yeah.
not in a project of liberation, as I defined.
So please stop calling them a liberation movement. Call
Right.
them an
No,
emancipation
no,
movement.
But that's the other. No, but that's the other thing. ANC has never claimed to be a liberation movement.
But they
guys.
do now and then.
No. ANC. You see, if you ever criticize ANC as being sellouts, which a lot of people do, you are also manifesting that you actually don't understand the ANC. I have a whole section I spoke about here. The very idea of the ANC is that they have a broad church, right? What does a broad church mean? It means we have communists, we
Yeah.
have they've got Marxists,
Yeah.
they've
you can all
got
that, yeah.
they've got a whole people who believe in different political doctrines. All of them are members of the ANC. And this is what makes them a broad
Yeah,
church.
it doesn't make
So
sense.
when
to
you
them,
then
yeah.
say, but ANC is not a liberation movement, but ANC has never
The church.
So sharp
Right.
ANC
Anywho, so-
nileng nkana ra re nele dire be bitsa nele
You're
social
asking for the
club
wrong thing.
nele social club. But okay, cool. Let's go back to that. Why isn't
So,
much done?
so when you ask your question in the way that you've asked it, you need to put layers. Since ANC came to power, basically they've been derailed and they have been preoccupied with the wrong project of transformation. Only when Fees Must Fall happens are they getting a rude awakening.
Yeah.
That actually we should have been focusing on decolonizing,
Yeah.
not this,
mixing
this,
everyone
this,
together into.
this so-called transformation project.
Okay.
Now,
So
now,
okay.
now,
All right. Cool.
because you want to understand from the decolonial moment going forward.
And what is academia doing? Or academia
Right. So-
ANC is not doing
so let's
much,
talk
so
about-
they can't do anything.
So the best
from
way to
their
talk
side.
about that is to say, how did they react to
Fees must fall.
Fees Must Fall, Roads Must Fall? And this is how they reacted. They set up a commission. They call it the Heerfa Commission.
What?
The Heerfa Commission. Judge Heerfa.
Okay.
You know, in
Oh
South
yeah,
Africa-
sure.
You know, in South Africa, we have traditions. When we set up a commission, we name it after the
Judge.
judge.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
name it after the person.
You
who's
know
chairing
now,
it.
Zondo
Yeah,
Commission, you know
Yeah,
that.
Zondo.
Yeah.
So we've been playing that game.
Yeah.
And this is not a new thing that we start now. We've been doing
No,
this
it's
since
been
then.
happening for a while.
Anyway, this Heerfa Commission comes up with resolutions, which, interestingly, have got nothing to do with what the students were raising.
What
Clearly,
were they?
Nothing has changed.
Hold on. It gets worse. Each university receives a mandate from higher education.
Yes.
And they are told, can you review your curriculum with decolonization in mind? But whom?
That's optional, Pell.
Hold up. you are asking people who are colonized,
Yes,
people
to
who have graduated with colonial degrees, you are asking them to review
Their own-
what they believe
exactly what are you expecting them to tell you? Because
in.
this,
Most,
I mean,
most of them, they even like call
so
either way.
I was just yesterday. I was reading a colleague of mine, Professor Sally Matthews. She's the head of Department of Political Science at Rhodes University, and she says in the review process at Rhodes, when we were asked by management that we need to review, so as a head of Department of Political Science, I will speak about how our review process happened, and I'll be dead honest. I dare say that most of my colleagues had no understanding of what exactly was expected. Not only that, I can talk about the other schools in the university. They have no idea. So that was 2016, 20, right? 2016, 20, up to now. It is 2020.
Yes.
Not a single university in this country has decolonized their curriculum.
Nothing.
Not only that.
So
No.
can I just get something quickly?
Yeah.
I understand that. Okay, cool. Which is not good. Are they of like mind in academia? When it comes to this thing. And also, if Balitemba like mind, why let's get some sort of a committee and approach a government and then you guys do that review because clearly the ones about now
Okay. You know, South Africa is a very interesting country because it's very violent. It's a very violent space.
Yeah.
Not long ago, we had something under Thabo Mbeki's presidency called the Native Club.
Yeah.
Do you remember this club? Adding to that club, there was something called the Black Journalists Forum.
Yeah.
Do you remember what happened with that?
I remember.
The point I'm trying to drive here is this. We have students, we have colleagues in academia, we have professors who are like-minded about the decolonial agenda. And one of them, I mean, Sabelo Ndlovu, as I have him here, right? And you know he writes this book on the decolonial Mandela.
Yeah.
Let's not get lost in how decolonized was Mandela.
Yeah.
But it's an exercise that Sabelo Ndlovu is one of them, Sipamandla Zondi, Itumeleng Mosala, Lwazi Lushaba at UCT. I can continue with the names. You know, Professor Tendai Sitole. The point is, colleagues involved in the decolonial project are there. They are writing papers. They are publishing, but don't downplay the fact that academia remains an elite exercise.
It is, sure.
And because of this elitism, there is no plug that links to the community.
Yeah.
Because of that, you don't see any rupture taking place. So that's the first problem. The second problem you have is the politicians. There is no political will.
Yeah.
And there is the question of me as Tshepo being one of those that I think I'm counting myself as being part of that small cohort who is wanting to be part of the decolonial agenda.
To change.
What would it's not what would I change more than what can we possibly contribute more towards so that we can be able to hit the right pattern, because it's not going to happen overnight. First and foremost, we need to stop thinking in colonial terms. We need to check our thinking, and the only way we do this is by first doing what this book suggests, revisiting the other side of our history.
Yeah.
The history that we know, I opened with an example of 1976, wrong history. We need to, because only from that premise can we begin to have the conversations we need to have.
Yeah.
So for example, you telling me that you're at Wits and you want Wits to decolonize. You are at UJ, you want UJ to decolonize. I was presenting a paper at UJ on decolonization, and I asked them, I said, for the first time when we took over Rao and a black VC came to power, first time in the history of this Afrikaans university, and you decide to call it Johannesburg, University of Johannesburg. Now, you tell me, you are intellectuals. You are not the community.
Where's the logic?
Sure.
Can you tell me who the hell was Johannesburg?
Yeah.
Hey, they look at me. I'm like, That's because there is no such person.
There's no will.
There is no such person
It's
as
Johannes.
Johannesburg. It's Johannes.
Mm.
And do you
Johannes,
know
yeah.
which Johannes they're talking about? I mean, we are black intellectuals. We are now sitting at the helm of an intellectual institution. And we are in a transformative project.
I remember you also said that
Right? So,
in relation to Naledi, they also didn't know the name of that school. The
Right.
people who work there.
right. So I spoke about just up the road from us
Mm.
here, there's a school called Thomas Mofolo. And for the benefit of the listeners, like I said, he is one of the early writers. These are his two books, right? So he, Thomas Mofolo wrote Traveler to the East,
Mm-hmm.
right? He wrote Traveler to the East, and he also wrote Chaka. So he wrote on Shaka Zulu. Cut a long story, and he writes on Shaka Zulu before Mazizi Kunene writes on Shaka Zulu. Cut a long story short, this school is not aware that this guy was an author, and that his claim to fame is that he's actually one of our pioneering black authors. So notice I'm not saying South African,
Yes.
because he was from Lesotho,
Yeah.
right? But the school is in deep Soweto, Naledi.
And the
they don't
teachers
know
don't know.
So when we say decolonization, we need to stop thinking about complicating the answer. It's, guys, can you please, and Steve Biko kept on saying it as his mantra, black men know thyself.
Yeah.
Right? Mudimbe also tells us and warns us about what is called the colonial library. Right? The colonial library is not the library as you imagining a physical library with books. Colonial library is everything to do with sources that emanate from Europe, and therefore they are part of the Eurocentric reality, which is now part of our modernity.
Our modernity.
And today we are just nothing but consumers of it.
Wow.
Go ahead,
So,
brother.
all right, we're running out of time, but so will it be safe for me to say that there's not enough will to change how things are?
It depends. If you say political will, yes, there's not enough of that.
And in academia?
If you say academia, I'll say there is something called there is something called intellectual. The name is running away from me. But basically, there's a lot of lies coming from academics. There is no intellectual honesty. That's what I want to say to
Okay.
you. So, back to the word I used earlier, half truth.
Yeah.
They will tell you, but they won't tell you the entire thing. Your question should be, what
It's
are they
unethical.
afraid of?
Yeah.
To say the stuff that, why are they only stopping here? Like, what's wrong with this other part? That's because the most laziest answer is they've got bills to pay, and they still want to keep their jobs, and they want to get promoted tomorrow.
Now,
Well,
in
that's
this,
a
in
sad
this
one.
whole in this whole frame, there's got to be one person who's not snookered. Who's not snookered in South Africa? It seems like so many people, from the individuals to the people who work in the schools to people who are enforcing laws and so on and so forth. Who exactly is not snookered and benefits from the way things are and seeing that things stay the way they are,
Sure.
but has the power to do something?
The truth is, you're talking to a system,
Yeah.
and no matter how activist you may be in your scholarship, if those who we can say are powers that be do not agree with you, they wield the power to deal with you. They wield the power to silence you. They wield the power to dismiss you. They wield the power not to publish you. You know, so you can do the work, but not get any expression in any outlet. So, which then what grows into that feeder that says there's just silencing, there's nothing that's been done. Whereas there's a lot that's been done, but because of the system and you can't penetrate it, you are failing to come through.
And that's where TPC comes in. We're trying to be independent. Support us and comment, like, share, and subscribe. Let anybody who might gain something interesting from this message get their hands on it and share. Thank you so much for joining us, Tshepo. We'll be together again to chat soon.
Yeah, we will. Thank you guys. I'm a bit down. I came here and energy buyer, but this whole decolonization thing, it's tough. Raleboga, thank you very much. Hopefully to something a little and it will continue because if you can see nakweni sepai. Also, the sellouts are hopefully mommy hated her. I'm sorry, we're gonna use that. Stop thinking about your bills only. Think about South Africa or Africa as a whole. Please
Think
stop
about
thinking
your
about
kids.
your bills.
Your kids don't just need food, they need the truth.
Yes. Thank you, Raleboga. Mr. Mvulani, thank you very much, sir.
Dr.
Dr. DR. Thank you. Cheers, guys.